Okay, so I'd like to welcome Katrien to Blauwer. Please give her a round of applause. So I'm going to introduce Katrien briefly, and then we're going to talk about, well, we'd initially planned to talk about two books, but Katrien is a very prolific publisher, so she's actually brought 4 recent books that we'll be passing around for you to look at, and we can discuss all of those. But Katrien is a Belgian artist who studied painting in Ghent and fashion at the Royal Academy in Antwerp. And your website tells me that you abandoned your fashion studies. So that might be an interesting question to come back to. And it was after that Katrien began the practice of collage that informs much of her work now and the work that we're going to see in the books that we're talking about today. And so Katrien has already published quite a number of books. And the 2 books that we're going to start by talking about are entitled Why I Hate Cars and Dirty Scenes, which I understand is a kind of companion book to Why I Hate Cars. So in this conversation, I was saying to Katrien earlier, there is a huge amount of mystery in your work, and I don't want for this conversation to demystify the work, because I think that really is its quality. But I think that it would be really interesting maybe to start by, on your website you describe yourself as a photographer without a camera. And so where did you come up with this idea, and what does that mean? How are you a photographer without a camera?
Just working? Yeah. Yes, I don't push the button. I just cut it. So, but it started when I was very young. I was 16 years, and I always kept notebooks for myself where I cut little fragments in books, and it was a piece for my mind. So I start to go to the paint school, but it wasn't my language. And then I discovered a fashion school. And I remember there was a mentor who said to me, "You're very, very good in mood books, but not in fashion or in making patterns." So I escaped the school immediately, and I follow my own language. But it was little by little by little. I keep it for many, many years in cupboards. I was too shy to show to the people. So from cupboards, and friends say to me, "Katrien, you have to show, you have to do something with it, it's good." I say, no. But little by little, I have more confidence for myself. And there was a girl, Juliana Puka, who I made the first book with, Silently Into the Night. And she come to me, and we work really 1 year on the book. And it was very interesting because my eyes get open. There's so much things to discover of my work that I didn't see, because it's always the unconscious, I work on it. So then the gallery came, and then the gallery for an exhibition, and the books came. So voila, here we are now. And it's really exploded in my face. Really, really, really. So now I have 4 books, I have exhibitions. So it's a dream. It's a dream come reality for me.
Maybe we can stop the slideshow for a moment. Just on this image at random, could you just tell us a little bit about the process of making your images? You've seen some of these images, and there are multiple components to each of your images. So what is your process in creating your images?
Well, I start, the process begins with searching for a lot of magazines. I go to flea markets to find original magazines, and it's mostly from the 20s till the late 60s. And then I go in my atelier, and in the beginning there was no story in my mind. I just cut what I'm touched by it and how I feel, because it's all started by feeling. it's not like a photographer who walking outside or and take pic. No, I really go in my atelier, in my mind and what my feelings. So in the beginning there was no story. But now I try to, people say, yeah, but you have to, I have a story. So I try to tell with the books, little by little, a story. So it starts when I was a boy. It's this book. It's about, the title is very important for me. When I was a boy, it's based on a true story. I don't know if it's interesting to tell in short words.
Please.
Yes, I we stop in a small village in Ronse. It's near the border with France. And I will stop by my grandmother. She was very old, and her first child, he was a boy, and he died very young. So my mother came, and she was pregnant of me, and the grandmother took care of me, but she didn't psychology. She cannot get over her boy, so she think I was her boy again.
Right.
So I always had my hair very. She dressed me like a boy. Okay. So in the book is a little bit struggling from. When I was little, a boy who became a woman. So that's why you see a lot of children in it, women, naked bodies. It was a painful process also. Yeah.
And so you spoke about this idea of the story. Your book, Why I Hate Cars, it begins with some fragments of text, and I understand those are taken from your notebooks that you mentioned before. It's not a story. It's not a clear narrative. I mean, I say fragments because it seems to be different fragments that are brought together. But how do you go about constructing a narrative? And in the case of Why I Hate Cars, how do you start to develop that story?
But Why I Hate Cars is also a second story in my mind. And I think making books is always a deeper process than an exhibition. It's like a puzzle in front of you. You make a lot of work, and then you have to choose which one you like, who is the connection. I think you become very smart to making books, more ideas, what cannot, what we can. So this one I want to tell another story. I have a story in my mind. Normally the people who know my work, they know I don't have so many men in my work. They are absent, but he is there, but more more behind in the background. And I wanted to Why I Hate Cars, to put him more central. So I start in my mind with the story. It's normally about my father, who was always absent. His obsession was cars. He was always on the road, and he met a lot of elegant women. Because when I was young and I saw him, he smelled perfume, or he have lipstick, and it's a memory of when I was a girl, just a fantasy about my father. I didn't see anything, but I think he doing these things. So I try to say in the book this language. And also the formats are changed, because I wanted to start with the vertical and the horizontal for men and women, but in the process I mix them. And this time I also paint on it, and the pencil is very new. I go back to the children, how they draw, and I study in books, but some way we lose our children, we lose it to be busy with growing up. And of course the notebooks were very interesting. I go back to because I talked with Tony from the library man who published the book. I like to have a little bit text on it. What should we do? And we talk, and I say, oh, maybe there's an idea to go to the notebooks And I have a lot of notebooks with fragments from newspaper, from things I hear, I writing, and then I cut it and I write it in my own language in the book.
And there's one of the words that comes up the most often with your work is cinematic, and I think already you've described maybe some kind of practices that relate to cinema. But what is your relationship to cinema?
Well, I think it's. I have to thank to the people for it because they don't know where they have to put me. I'm not a photographer, but look, I'm here at Photographie Palais, and I'm not a painter. I'm not a fashion designer, and I'm not a cinema. I don't know cinema, but everything is in one fragment. You can see it. But I'm a big fan of cinema, of course, and it's a compliment that they say that. Yeah.
So do we have any questions in the audience for Katrien? Because I have many more questions, so if you don't ask them, I will. Yes, can you shout it out? So do you ever take pictures?
No. I'm very bad in it.
It's a very simple answer. We have another question.
No. I have a huge collection in my home. Maybe for 20 years I have enough.
The question was, aren't you afraid that there won't be any magazines anymore with which to make the work, I imagine? One final question. In the beginning, how did you sustain yourself as an artist?
How is I sustain?
How did you make a living as an artist in the beginning?
As an artist, I think like everyone, do everything. What can I say? But it's. What can I say? I do a lot of jobs, a lot. But it was a feeling in me. I say. You have to do what you like, jump, and I jump. I'm very happy.
Great. The question is, you have many newspapers and magazines, but also do you collect stories?
Oh, you mean? Yes. Yes. But I keep them for myself.
Okay, we have to end it there, but Katrien has a book signing at 5 o'clock at the Galerie Filles du Calvaire booth. I'm not certain what the number of the booth.
C20.
C20.
It's together with François.
And it's for another book that we haven't shown you today. Maybe you can just say one word about this book, the title.
The last book, I Close My Eyes, Then I Drift Away. It's a collaboration with photographer François Lard. It's the first time I worked together with a real photographer. So it was very a challenge. I know he loved my work and I love his work. And Tony, he knows us and he make us contact together. So I go to his atelier and to his archive. He show me, and with this picture I like, they come back in my world, and we make this book together.
That's terrific. And we should say as well, all these books are published by Library Man, which is Tony that you've mentioned. So thank you so much, Katrien.
Welcome.